what are the 5 things that Rutgers needs to avoid this year and to have a successful season? Now, we've talked about things they have to avoid. They got to avoid injuries because, depth can be an issue. They've got to avoid turnovers, all that stuff. But we want to talk about some of the more, intricate things that we haven't really talked about previously. So, Gabe, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, Pit Snipe Husker right on the money with that comment. So my number one thing to avoid, if we're doing this in order, in that case, I guess I'll do my number 5 thing to avoid. And this is kind of a niche thing, but Schiano needs to trust his coordinators because we've heard in interviews over this offseason during spring practice, coordinators say, Schiano has yelled at us for doing something wrong. And that's my thing is how do you know it's wrong if you hire a coordinator to give his input offensively, defensively, special teams, whether it's the line, whether it's the possession players, you don't know that they're wrong yet. I don't know if yelling at your coordinators is necessarily a good look. And I don't want to twist this. If the coaches believe that it's just a motivation thing, that's fine by me. The more beneficial criticism, the better. I just hope that he does trust his coordinators and sometimes even lets them override his decision because that's what makes an offense and a defense healthy on a team is trial and error. And you can incorporate your own feng shui to it, obviously, but trust your guys that you hire.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned that because my first thing that, they need to avoid, I think Coach Schiano needs to do something different this year. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but I think he's a fantastic coach and a fantastic person, but I think that he's going to have to adapt something in his coaching style to get these players to be more consistent and to get the best out of his team. And I think that might be it might be adjusting the way he views the offense. It might be delegating orders to coordinators. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
But I think that is a factor that's going to weigh on their success.
And it's funny you say that because my number 4 thing is don't be afraid to change what isn't working. But while you were saying that, it made me think maybe with Ethan Kaliakmanis, you hire a guy just for him, right? Because he is a starter this year. He will be starting the final game of the season as well, barring injury. He's not going to get benched unless he performs historically atrocious, which I statistically imagine isn't possible given his trajectory the past 3 years, last year at Rutgers, 2 years prior at Minnesota. And you work with him, you figure out why were we 7-6 last year when we could have been 9-4, 10-3. We could have been 5-9 or no, not 5-9, 5-8 or whatever. But you hire a guy just for Ethan. But when it comes to, I guess before I delve into my number 4 point, what do you think of that?
I agree with you. And my number 2 point was that Ethan has to emerge as a true leader of the team, and particularly on the offensive side. And he's got to play like a leader. He's got to distribute the ball effectively, and he's got to really, take ownership over this Rutgers team and emerge as someone who leads the team and that inspires the trust and confidence of the players.
Yeah, and Jason, it's funny you say this, that they need to be better in the return game. We've fair talked too many times because we mentioned a possible change in the depth chart in terms of kick returning, and we got grilled for it on YouTube. I believe it was one of our viewers, Tom. Oh my God, he grilled us because he was like, "Do you guys even watch the games? They fair catch every time." We know they fair catch a lot, but you still have some returns because whether you like it or not, sometimes a kicker will squib kick. Sometimes they'll do a bad kick and make you return it, or sometimes they just don't have enough power. So yes, they do need to be better in the return game. And Adam, I think you're right. I almost called you Ethan because I was going to say I agree with your point about Ethan. And I believe that happens via change. I believe we need to change what isn't working in the aspect of, say, Antoine Raymond has 10 carries for 12 yards and 2 fumbles. I hope that does not happen. And if that happens, maybe have a game where you go to CJ Campbell, 15 times, and you go to Raymond 2 or 3 times and see, can Raymond capitalize on his snaps? If KJ Duff or Ian Strong aren't cutting it on the outside, maybe switch DT onto the outside. Maybe bring in Ben Black. And especially with the tight ends, with Kenny Fletcher and Colin Weber being so neck and neck in terms of talent, don't be afraid to change them too, or do 2 tight end sets. I mean, we have a benefit this year that we haven't had in a long time, which is we can change guys out and not drop off in talent.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Those are great points. And I think one of the things that I think they have to avoid this year is, I think this is my third reason, they cannot leave points on the field.
Yeah.
And that means, Patel has to be a very consistent field goal kicker. But in addition to that, when they have the ball in an opponent's territory on the 38, 40-yard line, I don't want, they can't get into a position where they have to punt because they couldn't get a first down or really drive the ball deep into the red zone. So I think minimizing the points that you leave on the field is important.
Makes sense. And I was going to talk about Jai Patel, but I feel like it's kind of a given that you want your kicker to be good at kicking, So I stayed off of that. My number 3 point is ironically a little contradictory to my point with Shiano, and don't be afraid to change what isn't working. And that is for this team to be patient with one another. If you have a problem with a guy and you want to settle it, you either talk to your coaches or you talk to him man to man, but don't be toxic about it. Don't say a guy isn't talented. Don't say he needs to just do better. And this sounds like very simple stuff, but you learn it in elementary school. That doesn't mean you apply it as a grown man. You need to make sure that you're applying this. And it seems like Rutgers football does have a very good chemistry. I see it on Instagram. Guys are making jokes with each other. Where you'd think maybe if it was just 2 friends hanging out, they cross the line. But it's all love at the end of the day, especially when it comes to football. I just want this team to be patient with one another. If Patel were to miss a kick, if Raymond were to fumble a ball, if Ethan has, God forbid, a 3 interception day, you don't make fake YouTube accounts commenting that Ethan should have done better. Instead, you tell him like a grown man, look, it wasn't your best day, but I believe in you. You're my teammate. You're here for a reason. So that's all I have to say about that point.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Another great point. I think, this was my 4th point. They have to stay in the moment. Okay? So if you have a bad play, and this relates to what you were saying, you cannot let it affect your next play.
No.
They need to be focused on staying in the moment and treating every play, independently, and not letting either the scoreboard, a turnover, a bad play, a missed assignment affect how they're playing now. So staying in the moment and having that mental discipline, I think, is very important for this year.
Yeah, absolutely. My number 2 point is let the young guys have an equal say, but definitely check them when they overstep. And I say that, look, obviously being a professional football player, and it's college, but college is pretty much semi-pro at this point with NIL deals. Being a professional football player, it takes much more skill than being a fraternity man. But as a fraternity man on a team, I saw as a young guy, my peers being a little bit nervous, right, of the older guys on the team, so to say, for this comparison. But then I also saw some overstepping, and they welcomed us in. My Theta Chi brothers welcomed us in. And that's what I've seen out of this Rutgers team, is welcoming in the young guys, the ones who reclassified to 2025, the Wadiq Colliers. Exactly, Jason, stay on the moment, a.k.a. keep chopping. Well done,
Yeah.
sir. And I believe that it was DT Sheffield who said that he's seen his peers on the team leading the young guys in a tremendous way, and so I'm happy about that. And it's definitely something to avoid, even though it's nothing that we've crossed the line with yet. We got to keep the young guys in check, know their place, but definitely let them have their opinions. I'm very anti-hazing. If you do petty hazing here and there, whatever, but like let the young guys in the locker room at the same time. No tagging out for the locker room. No extra exercise. None of that. Like just do what the coach says. Bond as a team and move forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm against hazing too. There's nothing productive that comes from that. What I'll tell you, what's productive is when you have upperclassmen who lead and inspire and welcome. So my last point is a very simple one. Second half adjustments. Rutgers has to do a better job at halftime of making the adjustments so that they can, deal with the game that they're playing. And, how good, Nick Saban was famously good at adjusting at halftime.
Oh, yeah.
How good is that staff going to be? I think that's going to be critical because there's going to be a number of very close games. So I think second half adjustments are very critical.
Yeah, that's a great point, especially, oh, man, I keep bringing up the freaking Illinois game, but especially when you're up so much. You're up so much against a better team, and you can't close the deal out, especially after a comeback drive by Ethan that, despite one ball that almost got picked off, looked picture perfect.
Right.
I'm a big proponent of adjustments. And my number 1 point is we can't rely on one guy on offense unless they're in like a hot zone or whatever. They call it a heat check. And if they're in a heat check, sure, rely on one guy. If DT makes 6 straight catches in 2 drives, keep feeding them the rock. But if you're throwing it to the same guy, if you're being predictable on offense, and we have just too much depth for that.
Yeah, I think that's – go ahead.
I was going to say, we have between Ethan's running ability, CJ Campbell, Antoine Raymond, Deshaun Benjamin, 4. That's 4 guys. And then we also have DT 5, KJ Duff, Ian Strong, Ben Black, Famatere unfortunately got injured. And that's 8 guys. And then we also have Kenny Fletcher, Colin Weber. That's 10 guys that I am comfortable giving the ball to if we're down 3 points in the final drive of a game. So that's too much spreading the ball around potential to keep giving it to one guy.
Yeah, and I think that's why the offense is going to be better this year than last year, because last year, I mean, if you're game planning for Rutgers, what are you thinking? Stop Kyle Monangai. And
stop Kyle Monangai, stop Ethan from escaping the pocket, and that's it.
Yeah, and credit to Monangai, who had a great year and is now the number 2 running back for the Bears. Wish him the best, of course. But I think we were a little bit one-dimensional last year, and this year I think it's going to be quite multi-dimensional, and that's going to make a big difference, particularly in those close games.
Yeah. So your number 1 was the halftime
adjustments.
Sounds good. Yeah. So you guys follow that, and
because how many games did we lose in the second half?
Yeah, too many.
Great discussion.
I want to say at least 3 games. I feel like it's been at least 3 games last year.
Yeah. I mean, Nebraska.
Wisconsin, right?
Wisconsin was up at the end of the first half, but
I know Illinois.
The trend continued in the second half with Wisconsin. So, and then Illinois, they regressed in the second half. And then against UCLA, it was kind of like both halves were kind of the same, where, Ethan Garber's just in that offense.
Also, you want to know something else heartbreaking? I forgot to mention for our rankings. We lost the Rate Bowl to Kansas State. They're ranked 11 this year.
They're ranked 11?
11.
Is their quarterback coming back? If he is, that might be a big
research. All I did was, let me see, Kansas State depth chart. It is Avery Johnson. Wow,
yeah,
same name as
he's coming back.
Same name as Spurs point guard Avery Johnson from the 90s.
Yeah. So I could see Kansas State, and we had a great first half against them. It's just that what happened in the second half?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying about the adjustments. It's like, I know that last year Kansas State was a legit team, no question. And I know that in the second, I know we struggled with injuries and, lack depth. So there's only so many adjustments you can make if you don't have the personnel. But I think this year we do have the personnel, and I think those adjustments will be critical to winning those close games.
Yeah, I mean, everyone talks about how much tougher this year's schedule is, but what keeps me motivated and keeps me having good faith is how well we played the games last year against teams that were on paper better than us. Even though we didn't close it out, very similar to the Aaron Rodgers Jets, we kept in it. And unlike the Aaron Rodgers Jets, that didn't feel like a disappointment.
And if you're in it, that means you can win it. And
exactly.
That's we got to do.
State, we lose. We both put up 40+ points. Nebraska, better team than us. Better quarterback at the time for sure. Probably again next year. We keep it close there, ugly close. Wisconsin is ranked above us, and we should have won that game. UCLA is ranked above us, and we should have won that game. There's a lot of games last year that we faced a better team, but we really could have won.
Yeah,
that's for this year.
We lose by 7 in Lincoln. We lose by, I believe it was 3 against the Bruins.
Yeah.
We lose on the last play, or the second to last play, against Illinois.
Who's ranked 13. I forgot to mention them.
So we have the capability, but it comes down to those little things that make a huge difference. So it's going to be exciting to see how it plays out this year, especially with a tougher schedule and these games now, several of them on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see how it goes. Hopefully, if like 8 or 9 of these 10 points are never in question, we'll have a good year.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Gabe, great discussion. All 3 segments. Any final thoughts as we march towards next Thursday and the opening game of the season?
It's coming up really quickly. And you're definitely right. The real MVP 24, is that a tribute to Kobe Bryant? Yes, that is a huge difference. And unfortunately, it's the difference between 9-3 and 3-9 because our schedule is grueling this year, and it's mostly made up of 50-50 games.
Yeah. Dariel, great to see you, and absolutely right. Consistency, and we've talked about it for both the team, for Ethan Kaliakmanis. Consistency is going to be key this year, and I think that we're going to see an improvement in that area. But at the same time, we're going to have, a lot of road games, Washington, Illinois, and we've got some tough home games. We're going to Columbus too. So I think they have to stay in the moment and take each moment at a time and really build a cohesive team and believe. And Jason, you're right. The Wisconsin game was ugly. They just didn't it was not their day, to say the least.
They must have had too many cheese curds before the game.
Yeah, Madison's a pretty nice city too, by the way. I've been there a couple times.
You ever been to Green Bay? Green Bay as a city is okay. Lambeau Field is beautiful. Lambeau Field, it feels like you're entering into like this kingdom.
I would love to go to Lambeau Field, but
yeah, I got to knock that goal out. Thankfully, it's the only. I've only been to 3 stadiums: Lincoln Financial, MetLife, and Lambeau. So
I'm jealous. I would love to go to see Lambeau.
I'll stand on the take that nobody is more dependent on their sports team than Green Bay with the Packers.
Yeah, that's true. And I'll never forget that game at Lambeau Field. It was maybe 2007, maybe, when the Giants went to Lambeau Field in the NFC Championship game. It was like -4 or 5 degrees. I don't know how you play in those conditions, but
it should have. Honestly, those games to me are more dangerous than the snow games.
I agree.
Like I think it was the Chiefs Dolphins last year or 2 years ago that it was -10 and it felt like -30.
Yeah.
You saw what the cast was wearing? The cast was wearing like everything. Like you couldn't even see an inch of their skin.
Yeah, and then there was that game, I believe it was the Seahawks against the Vikings. Remember the Blair Walsh kick?
Yeah. Oh, I hated that at the time. It's just funny now, though.
That was like so cold. I mean,
I was not a fan of the Legion of Boom at the time.
No.